I never expected a homeless girl's blood would save the dying CEO and steal his heart forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a day like any other. The sun was shining, casting a warm glow over the busy city, but I felt cold inside. I stood on the corner, my stomach twisted in knots, clutching my tattered backpack close to my chest. I was invisible there, to the hurried pedestrians, the busy executives in their crisp suits. A dirty child in the shadows, trying to survive. I wiped the grime off my face, but it made no difference. They wouldn't see me. Not today. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the mundane atmosphere. A sleek black car barreled down the street, tires screeching. I grabbed my chest, heart racing, as I turned to see it careening toward a crowd of people. My instincts kicked in. I broke into a sprint. I wasn't just running for my life. I was running for theirs. Time slowed when the car skidded to an abrupt stop. I lunged forward, shoving a lady out of the way. Her gasps echoed in my ears, but then a dull thud stole my breath. I turned to see him. The CEO, his face pale, eyes wide with shock, blood seeping from a wound on his temple. I could hardly breathe. They called him a king, a titan of industry, and here he was, sprawled in the street. I knelt beside him, the world blurring around us. My trembling hands reached for his. I felt heat pulsing beneath his skin, and my heart ached with something unexpected. A spark of hope mingled with fear. It felt surreal, like I was trapped in a movie. The crowd hovered, murmurs rippling through them. Is he gonna die? Someone shouted, panic in their voice. Call an ambulance. Another yelled, but I knew the sirens would take too long. My mind raced. I spotted the faint gleam of a first aid kit among the onlookers. Get it. I pleaded, my voice cracking. But no one moved. They gawked at me, a filthy homeless girl, desperately trying to save a man who had everything. Why would they listen? Without thinking, I pressed my hand to the wound, my palm sticky with blood. I knew I didn't have the means to save him, but something in me gripped tightly to desperation. Someone help. I screamed. And in that moment, in the chaos of the world blurring beyond my eyes, I made a choice I never knew I could make. I ripped a small section of my own skin, letting my blood mingle with his. The sight sent shivers through my spine. I gasped, but I pressed harder, as if my essence could infuse hope into his lifeless body. Then silence. The crowd held its breath. The air was heavy. Would he survive? Would I be the miracle they never saw coming? I closed my eyes, trembling with the weight of unknown sacrifices. In an instant, the CEO's chest rose sharply. I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or it was reality. Shouts erupted around us. Someone pulled me back, angry hands gripping my arms. Get away from him. A woman's voice screeched. I felt the warmth fade as reality crashed back into place. I glanced at his face. His eyes flickered open, staring straight at me. I shivered as I felt something else, to a connection, an understanding. But then, darkness began to swallow me whole. The weight of the world descended, and I lost my bearings as they dragged me away from him. What had I done? Why did I feel this strange pull towards him, while the world around us screamed in confusion? The CEO's gaze locked onto mine, lips moving to say something, but the rush of voices drowned it out. I was pulled back into the chaos. I inhaled sharply, heart racing. What now? Had I just changed the course of our lives forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sirens wailed closer, slicing through the frantic energy in the air. I struggled against the hands gripping my arms, the urgency of a nascent panic bubbling within me. The crowd swirled, yet all I could focus on was the fleeting connection we shared, his eyes still boring into mine as he whispered something unintelligible, his mouth moving with a strength that belied the blood pooling around him. "Let me go." I cried out, wrenching my arms free as I broke from their grasp. I stumbled towards him, but the mass of bodies blocked my way. The ambulance arrived with a screech, doors flinging open as medical personnel rushed out. Everything became a blur, my heart racing in time with the hurried movements around me. "Get back!" a paramedic yelled. The crowd parted instinctively, but I remained frozen, my breath hitching in my throat as I watched them lift the CEO onto a gurney. "Please!" I called out, desperation clawing at my throat. "He needs me." I helped him. My words were lost in the chaos, drowned by the clamor of voices imploring and ordering. They secured him with medical equipment, moving with an alarming speed. I couldn't understand why I felt as though a part of me was being severed from him, disconnected by a distance I couldn't bridge. As they wheeled him away, I ran alongside the gurney, my heart racing with each passing second. His gaze was fixed on me, desperate and pleading, his brow furrowed with an intensity that made my spirit ache. "Don't go," I implored, willing the universe to bend to my will, to allow me to stay by his side. But the distance between us widened, pulled taut by invisible strings of fate. The last echo of his voice lingered in the air, a haunting whisper that ignited a fire in my chest. Wait, that was all I heard. But it was enough. As the ambulance door slammed shut, I stumbled back, feeling a sudden emptiness swallow me whole. The world was moving again, and there I stood, the filthy girl who had dared to reach beyond her grasp only to watch the man she had inadvertently tied herself to disappear from sight. The air turned thick and oppressive, and self-doubt crept in with the shadows gathering around me. How could I have thought I could help someone like him? Why did I think my blood meant something more than survival? A hand landed on my shoulder. I turned, startled, but found a woman standing there, a stranger, yet she radiated an unexpected warmth. She had an air of authority about her, her dark eyes piercing through the remnants of my despair. "Are you okay, dear?" she asked, her voice a soothing balm against the chaos of the moment. "No." I choked out, my voice breaking. "I saved him, but they won't let me." I gestured wildly toward the now departing ambulance, my heart shattering with each beat. He looked at me like I meant something. "I just can't lose him too." Her expression softened, and she stepped closer. "Listen," she said, a seriousness threading through her tone. "You did something incredible. It won't go unnoticed. Come with me." Before I could protest, she guided me away from the bustle of the street, stepping into a nearby cafe with quiet corners and warm light. It was cozy, a stark contrast to the storm raging in my heart. "What's your name?" the woman asked, gently guiding me to a seat. "Anya," I whispered, still rattling from the events that had just transpired. "Anya," she repeated, allowing the name to linger between us. "I'm Jessica. And what you did out there, it was brave." You should be proud. That I couldn't help but shake my head, overwhelmed by the weight of her words. I was just a girl, a nobody. I shouldn't have even tried. Sometimes, being a nobody means you have a unique perspective on life. Her voice was firm yet kind, pulling at the strands of something I thought I'd lost. Empathy is powerful, and your actions show that you have immense courage. But you have to be prepared. The follow-up might be difficult. What follow-up? I asked, blinking away the tears threatening to spill over. What do you mean? I work for a non-profit that helps vulnerable people like you. She took a slow breath. There may be repercussions for what you did, Anya. Consider this a doorway to a new future. If he survives, he may want to meet you. Hell have questions. A flicker of hope ignited within me, battling against the deep-rooted fears that had followed me for years. What would it mean to hear from him? What if he wanted nothing to do with the girl who had dared to save him? Struggling to put my thoughts together, I felt another wave of uncertainty crashing in. As I opened my mouth to respond, a hushed voice filled the cafe, a voice that turned my blood cold. Anya? My name hung in the air like an accusation. I turned slowly and found myself facing a man in a crisp, designer suit. I recognized him immediately, the CEO's assistant, his expression a mixture of confusion and urgency. "We need to talk." My heart pounded mercilessly against my chest, a strange amalgamation of fear and anticipation flooding my veins. This was the beginning of something entirely new, and the urgency radiating from him sent chills coursing through my body. What did he want from me? But somewhere deep within the tremors of doubt, a small flame of hope flickered, urging me to take a step forward into the unknown. The silence that followed my name echoed like a thunderclap in my ears. The cafe, once a sanctuary of warmth, felt suddenly constricting, the air too heavy to breathe. I could see Jessica's eyes darting to the assistant, a glimmer of concern creeping into her otherwise serene demeanor. "Please," I managed to croak, my voice quaking. "What do you need?" The assistant stepped closer, his tailored suit exuding an air of authority that struck me with an unsettling mix of intimidation and curiosity. "I'm sorry for the abruptness," he said, his voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of urgency. "There's been a complication with the CEO. He's stable for now, but the pressure is on. We need to know how you were involved." My heart hammered wildly in my chest as my mind grasped for answers. Did they think I had harmed him? That I had somehow jeopardized his life when all I wanted to do was help? I only helped him. I swallowed hard, the world around me blurring as I tried to find my footing. "He needs me." I was there when it happened. The assistant's eyes softened slightly, revealing a trace of empathy buried beneath his stern exterior. "And that's exactly why we're here. You demonstrated a remarkable level of care, more than anyone else showed that day." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle between us. "We believe that if we can understand the connection well, it could make all the difference for him." My stomach twisted in knots. The connection? Did I really have one with him? The fleeting moments we shared felt almost dreamlike, infused with an intensity that surpassed the chaos of that day. But could it hold any meaning now? Where is he? I found myself asking, needing to know that he was safe, that he hadn't slipped away in the turmoil of sirens and shadows, currently at St. Jude's Hospital. His voice was firm yet strangely gentle, like an anchor in turbulent waters. "But time is critical. The board is discussing the future of the company, and some members believe his incident could be a liability. That's why they want his contact list to ascertain who has been involved." My breath caught in my throat. Contact list? Do they plan to use me against him? No. It's not like that, he reassured, stepping back slightly. He has a good heart, and it's important that you know that. If he learns you're here, it could impact him positively. At that moment, I felt like a pawn in a game I didn't understand. 1 minute, I had been a nobody, just Anya, a girl fighting for survival in a world that often overlooked me. And now, somehow, my fate was intertwined with that of the most powerful man in the city, and I had no idea what this would mean for either of us. Would he even want to see me? I asked, my voice small and trembling. I fought against the tears that pressed at the corners of my eyes. Before he could answer, I saw Jessica watching me intently, her warm presence a stark contrast to the harsh reality crashing around me. Finally, she spoke, her voice a balm against the uncertainty. "If anything, you deserve the chance to tell him your side, to stand your ground. You did more good than you realize, my dear." The assistant nodded in agreement, his demeanor softening further. "But to do that, we must prepare. Can you come with me? We need to arrange for you to see him properly." I looked between them, the gravity of the decision weighing heavily on my heart. Would I have the courage to face him? What if he rejected me, or worse, what if he saw me as just another complication pulling at the strings of his already fragile life? "Okay," I finally whispered, my voice soaked in uncertainty but tempered with budding resolve. "They'll come." As we moved to leave the cafe, Jessica gave me a reassuring nod, her presence offering warmth as we stepped into the stark light of reality once more. The streets felt surreal, and each step seemed less certain than the last. My mind buzzed with questions. doubts, and fears, but deep within the seams of turmoil, a flicker of hope remained, a small yet defiant flame urging me onwards. Just as we approached the entrance, an unexpected bang echoed from a nearby alley. I turned sharply, my heart nearly stopping as I recognized a figure slipping out of the shadows. It was him, Rico, a ghost from my past who had long haunted my memories. His presence here was alarming, an unwelcome reminder of the life I had fought so hard to escape. "Anya," he called, a cruel smirk creeping across his face as he stepped closer. "What a coincidence to find you here. I see you've made some interesting friends." The assistant instinctively moved in front of me, shielding me from the implications of Rico's words. "Walk away," he asserted. "You don't want to tread here." That I felt the heat rise to my face, a blend of fear and indignation blazing in my chest. What did he want from me now? But as Rico stepped forward, a darkness loomed. The hope I'd barely begun to embrace staggered beneath the weight of this unexpected confrontation. "You think you've made a name for yourself?" he taunted. "You're just a nobody, Anya. And nobodies don't save CEOs. They get trampled over." My heart pounded visibly in my throat, the hopelessness creeping in like a fog. I stared up at the assistant, his eyes locked on mine, brimming with urgency. It was a moment of crossroads where fear could either render me immobile or ignite the courage that lay dormant within me, waiting to burst through. Suddenly, all eyes turned towards the alley as I realized the assistant had reached for his phone, dialing furiously while his other hand clutched at my arm. The path ahead was rife with uncertainty, and as Rico advanced, the chilling reality dawned on me. I had already stepped into a world beyond my own, one where danger and hope were inextricably entwined. With a determined breath, I straightened my back and met his challenging gaze. No matter what happened next, I would fight for the chance that still flickered before me. I could either surrender to fear or face my demons head-on as I ventured into the unknown, armed with nothing but the ember of hope that refused to fade. The world around me twisted into chaos, the lines between allies and adversaries blurring in that charged moment. Rico's taunts rattled through my mind, a cruel echo of a past I desperately wanted to outrun. But standing there, caught between fear and resolve, I felt something shift within me. I wouldn't be that helpless girl anymore. I wouldn't let him steal my strength. "Anya," the assistant whispered urgently, his focus unwavering on me. Around us, the people in the cafe stared, mouths agape and phones lifted to capture the unfolding drama. I could feel their judgment, their curiosity, and a strange sense of solidarity. I was no longer invisible. "Just let him go, Rico," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. "You don't get to define who I am. I'm not afraid of you." He faltered for a split second, the smirk slipping from his face. In that moment of vulnerability, I sensed a tiny crack in the facade he had so carefully constructed. But just as quickly, that glimmer flickered out, replaced with a simmering anger. "You think just because you're playing dress-up in this world, it means you're someone?" he scoffed. "You're still the same scared girl hiding in the alley." Before I could respond, the assistant stepped forward, assertive and composed. "You need to leave. This isn't a game for you anymore, Rico. And if you don't back off, he'll call security." I could hear the raw determination in his voice, which only served to heighten my awareness of the situation. Questions swirled in my mind. What if he saw a weakness? What if he decided to escalate it? But then I felt an unexpected warmth pressing against my back. Jessica had closed the distance to lend her support, her presence calming amid the storm. "You don't have to engage with him," she advised gently, standing beside me like a protective shield. "Let's walk away." We stood our ground, united against Rico as he attempted to make me second-guess myself. But as he floundered, his bravado faltering, I sensed a shift in the air. People from the cafe began to murmur, tossing curious glances, some even taking several steps forward. My heart raced, feeling the unfamiliar surge of solidarity coursing through us. Rico could see the crowd gathering, his demeanor stiffening. "This isn't over, Anya," he spat, retreating into the shadows from whence he came, leaving an unmistakable tension hanging in the air. As he disappeared from view, a sigh of relief washed over me, almost as powerful as an ocean wave. I hadn't backed down, and for the first time, I felt an inkling of strength surge within me. "Are you all right?" the assistant asked, his voice a mix of concern and professionalism. "I think so," I replied, breathing heavily as I caught my breath. "Good," he affirmed. "We need to get to St. Jude's." His phone buzzed in his hand, and he glanced down to read a message, his expression swiftly shifting back to urgency. "There's no time to waste. If we wait too long, we could lose everything." With Jessica by my side, I felt anchored as we hurried down the busy sidewalk. My heart hammered with the mixture of disarray that had just unfolded, yet there was a glimmer of hope shining through like the sun breaking after a storm. I was taking steps toward a new future, one where I had a voice that as we approached St. Jude's Hospital, the imposing structure loomed before us. My heart raced at the thought of seeing him. Would he still be the same? Would he remember our connection, or would the chaos of his situation overshadow what I meant to him? "Are you ready?" Jessica asked, her voice soft and steady, offering a lifeline amid my spiraling thoughts. I nodded, the courage rising within me like a tide, quickly replacing fear. "Yes," the assistant stepped forward, leading the way as we entered the hospital. The sterile scent of antiseptic washed over me, blending with an undercurrent of anxiety. The bustling staff and patients moving hurriedly through the labyrinth of hallways seemed worlds away from the atmosphere we'd just left outside. "Stay close," he instructed, glancing back at me as he strode purposefully through the halls. The rhythmic beeping of monitors and muffled conversations filled the air, creating a surreal cacophony that both comforted and haunted me. As we approached a door, the assistant pushed it open, and the sight of him alone in that stark room sent a jolt through me. There he lay, the infamous CEO, surrounded by machines that pulsed and beeped rhythmically, each sound an echo of hope and fragility intertwined. I caught my breath at the sight of his pale face and the gentle rise and fall of his chest. He was so vulnerable, so unlike the commanding presence I had first encountered. "Rico?" I whispered, my voice trembling like a fragile leaf caught in the wind. His eyes fluttered open, confusion slowly giving way to recognition. "Anya." He breathed, as if the name was a lifeline, an anchor. In that moment, all the chaos faded away. It was just the two of us surrounded by the whispers of life, and time itself seemed suspended as a world that had pressed in on us finally came to a standstill. But just as I stepped forward, ready to bridge the chasm that had grown between us, the hospital alarm rang out, a jarring shriek cutting through the intimate silence. Red lights flashed overhead, and my heart raced as I turned to the assistant, who was already on high alert that we need to evacuate the area now. He shouted, his voice slicing through the pandemonium. Panic surged through my veins as I experienced a whirlwind of emotions: fear, uncertainty, and the chilling crescendo of reality crashing back into our fragile moment. I looked back at Rico, his confusion blending with alarm as chaos erupted around us, and then, as the sirens echoed in my ears, I realized with chilling clarity, this wasn't just about me anymore. Whatever the outcome of this moment, I was already tethered to him, bound by the threads of a connection neither of us had fully understood until now. As the world began to spin out of control, a terrifying thought settled deep within me: what if I was about to lose him all over again? The chaos that enveloped us intensified as the alarm blared ominously throughout the hospital. I felt the urgency in the assistant's voice and my own heart racing like a stampede, fueling a primal instinct to survive. Jessica's hand clamped around my wrist, anchoring me against the tide of frantic hospital staff and patients. "Anya." The assistant's voice broke through the roar of fear. "We have to move now." Rico's eyes widened with a mixture of confusion and fear as nurses rushed into the room, deflating any semblance of safety we had just begun to feel. His vulnerability struck me like a physical blow. He was no longer the imposing CEO but a man caught in extraordinary circumstances. "Wait!" I shouted, stepping forward despite the growing chaos. I could feel the hospital's sterile air turning stagnant, thick with anxiety. "What about him? We can't just leave him here, there's no time." The assistant insisted, his expression grim as he gestured for us to step out. "He'll be alright, stable for now, but if there's a threat to the building, we can't risk it. They'll evacuate him properly." I studied Rico's face, that familiar blend of determination and vulnerability mixing in his expression. Something in his eyes urged me not to leave. "Rico," I began, but my words faltered as the sound of the alarm heightened, swallowing my voice. "Anya, please," he said, struggling to express more in that moment than he had the entire time I'd known him. "Get out. You shouldn't. Do you even know what you're asking me to do?" I interrupted, my voice rising above the disarray. "You're not just some stranger. I want you to fight. We'll find a way back to each other, I promise." Dark circles formed under his eyes as he tried to focus on me, a spark of desperation glistening within his gaze. "I can't." Suddenly, a group of hospital staff, emergency personnel rushing through the doorway, sent a wave of urgency that drew us outside. Jessica clung to me, guiding me away as the assistant began to lead the charge down the hallway. "Stay together," he shouted, but my heart was already anchored to Rico, each step pulling me further from the connection I had just begun to reclaim. Every step felt like a betrayal, and yet, demanding my own survival pushed me forward. Once outside, we were met with the frenetic energy of people congregating in the parking lot, anxious conversations mixed with the crackling chatter of walkie-talkies. I could barely process the sheer volume of emotion surrounding Mirleaf mixed with dread, a poignant reminder of how fragility permeated our lives like fog over a cityscape. "Anya," Jessica's voice was steady yet laden with something deeper. "He'll be taken care of. But we need to focus on what happens next." I wanted to scream, to lash out against the reality that sometimes things were not meant to fit, to know that despite my connection to Rico, there were forces beyond our control. Instead, I wrapped my arms around myself, fighting against the cold that crept in, whispering that he was still in the hospital, that I had just reached him and lost him once again. As the crowd murmured, one voice pierced through the haze. "Look." A mother pointed toward a patch of sky, where crimson smoke billowed ominously against the blue. "Are we under attack?" Panic rippled through the gathered crowd, I could feel it vibrating in my bones. What were we dealing with? Was it a drill, an explosion, or something worse? As fear took hold, the assistant furrowed his brow. "We need to disperse. Everyone, please move away from the building." I was torn. My feet felt anchored to the asphalt earth, and a voice in my mind screamed to run back to Rico. Would he remember my promise? Would he see me again? Would we unite in a world that had suddenly become so chaotic? "Stay close," Jessica whispered fiercely, pulling me into the sea of moving bodies, away from the hospital, steering me toward the street corner. I could feel my heart pang with every step, each second married to the uncertainty of his fate. As we pushed through the chaotic crowd, something caught my eye, a figure standing beyond the throng. Obscured yet achingly familiar. The blood drained from my face, realization crashing into me like a tidal wave. "Rico!" I gasped, my voice lost in the whirlwind surrounding us. He was standing there, amidst the fleeing crowd, unyielding as the chaos raged. He seemed to be fighting the currents of people pushing against him, determination setting his jaw. My heart lurched as our eyes met this time, calm flooded between us as if all words were unnecessary, but just as I took a step forward, something in the air shifted, a deep rumble reverberated beneath my feet, a tremor that clawed at my senses. "Anya!" The assistant screamed, pulling me back as the ground quaked with renewed intensity. Jessica shouted at me to run, but my gaze was locked onto Rico. In a heartbeat, I realized, I was about to lose him all over again. The world around us erupted. The horror that I had tried to flee became reality as the ground beneath us groaned and cracked. I felt a surge of desperation clawing at my chest, screaming to reach him, to rescue whatever flicker of hope remained in that moment. And then, everything shattered. The world fell apart in a cacophony of screams and breaking glass. My heart thundered in my ears as the ground continued to shake, flinging people into one another as if we were nothing but rag dolls in a cruel child's game. I fought against the instinct to flee, desperate to remain anchored to him, to the fleeting connection that had so quickly knit itself around my heart. "Anya, we have to go." The assistant's grip tightened around my arm, fear igniting the urgency in his voice, but all I could see was Rico, his eyes wide as he stood firm against the shattering chaos, his spirit igniting a flicker of resilience in my chest. In that moment, as everything seemed to spiral into chaos, a powerful surge of adrenaline coursed through me, a stark reminder that sometimes, life demanded more than comfortable choices. I wrenched my arm free from the assistant's hold, the world swirling into a blur, every heartbeat igniting my resolve. "Rico!" I shouted, a beacon in a storm, as if my voice could penetrate the mayhem. I pushed forward with all my might, the earth trembling beneath my feet, every step a silent battle against the overwhelming fear surging around us like an impending flood. As I broke through the invisible barrier that separated us, I felt the warmth radiating from his presence, a comforting glow amidst the tumult. I reached him just as the tremors escalated, surrounding us in a chaotic whirlwind. "You're okay. You're right here," I cried, fighting back the tears threatening to overflow. His eyes were wide, fraught with concern for me. "Anya, you shouldn't have come back. It's not safe." But even as those words left his mouth, his expression softened, revealing the vulnerability that lay beneath the facade of the powerful CEO. I could see the raw desire for connection mirrored in his gaze, an unspoken acknowledgement that we were two souls desperately holding on against a tide threatening to tear us apart. Suddenly, a tremor knocked us both to the ground, sending shockwaves across the pavement, but I grasped his hand in desperation, refusing to let go. "Not without you," I breathed, feeling the weight of our shared reality closing in around us, tethering us to something undeniably real. In that brief moment of connection, everything crystallized, the chaos around us faded to the background as if the universe had paused to let us linger in our truth. Time was no longer linear, it swirled in a kaleidoscope of emotions: fear, hope, desperation, and a burgeoning sense of love that took root deeply inside my heart. But the moment shattered as I heard a crack above us, a sound that sent cold dread racing down my spine. I looked up just in time to see a large piece of debris plummeting toward us. "Rico!" I screamed, my voice lost against the roaring chaos. He reacted instinctively, jerking me close to him as he shielded me with his body, our worlds colliding in a final embrace that felt like home amidst the danger. The impact was swift, darkness enveloping us as the debris connected with the ground nearby. When it was over, silence draped itself over us like a funeral shroud. I blinked, disoriented as the dust settled around us. My ears rang with the echoes of destruction, and I tried to focus on the weight of Rico beside me, the way his breath became a steady rhythm against my side. But when I turned, my heart dropped at the sight before me. Rico lay partially pinned beneath the remnants of what had once been the hospital structure, his face pale as he struggled for consciousness. "No, no, no," I stammered, panic flooding through my veins as my hands trembled over him, checking for any signs of injury. "Rico! Please, stay with me." His eyes fluttered open, and I saw a mix of vulnerability and strength in his gaze, the man who had faced opponents in boardrooms now at the mercy of fate. "Anya, I'm okay," he breathed, but the truth was evident, the pain etched on his face told a very different story. "We're going to get you out of here," I insisted, my voice breaking as I struggled against the weight of the rubble that trapped him. Every move sent jolts of fresh terror coursing through me, but instinct propelled me forward. Deserved a chance, and I wouldn't let this be our end. As I shifted the debris, I heard a faint rustle behind us. A woman emerged from the fog of destruction, her clothes tattered with remnants of soot and dust, her face marked with lines of anguish, but a spark of determination glinted in her eyes. "Help!" I shouted, relief flooding through me as I recognized the possibility of unexpected kindness in a world overrun by chaos. She rushed to my side, her hands trembling but strong as we worked together, lifting and pushing against the helpless weight of the wreckage. "We need to pull him free," she urged, and somehow, I felt a flicker of hope ignite against the suffocating darkness. Just as we managed to shift a large chunk enough for his leg to free itself, Rico gasped, his eyes searching for mine, and in that shared moment, I felt the depth of our connection, the promise I had made staggering beneath the weight of our reality. But it was then, as I held his gaze and struggled against the growing despair, that I heard distant sirens approach, the unmistakable sound of rescue. Hope surged within me, only to crash against a shocking revelation as a face came into view amid the chaos. "Anya." The voice sliced through the air like a knife, and at that moment, I turned to see the familiar figure of my estranged brother, standing amidst the debris, his expression twisted in horror and disbelief. "Why are you here?" I gasped, confusion overwhelming me. Beneath the overwhelming noise of sirens and chaos, his presence felt like an ominous shadow, leaving me to wonder what his return could mean, and as Rico's hand slipped from mine, the world spun anew. My brother's presence shifted everything I thought I understood, ripping open wounds long buried and thrusting me back into the chaos of the past. The remnants of the world had crumbled into chaos around us, but in that moment, with my brother standing beneath the shattered sky, the ground felt like it was splitting open all over again. His piercing eyes were filled with a storm of emotions I hadn't seen in years: disappointment, fear, love, and an underlying anger that had once driven us apart. "Anya, you need to leave now," he urged, his voice barely breaking through the din around us. "Not without him." I shouted back, my heart racing as I gestured towards Rico, who lay on the ground, breathing heavily, but Olivia miracle opposed to the despair gathering like clouds above our heads. But my brother's face twisted further into a mask of determination, and for a moment, I didn't recognize him. "He's not worth it. You don't know what he can do." I clutched my chest as if I could stifle the ache growing inside me. The words felt like knives piercing through the fragile web of connection I had started to weave with Rico. Just as I prepared to respond, I realized Rico was watching us, his expression shifting between confusion and pain, desperate to understand, to break through the barriers we were erecting around him. "Anya," Rico said softly, his voice strained, "you have to trust your brother. He knows." I interrupted, my body trembling with the intensity of our situation. "You don't understand. I can't lose you now. Why are you here?" I asked my brother, frustration bubbling over as the tension between us coiled tighter. "You just left. You left me alone in a world that couldn't understand me." Behind us, the distant sirens grew louder, their shrill cries a stark reminder that rescue was close, yet it felt so unbearably far if it meant losing Rico. I couldn't let that happen. A decision was clawing its way to the surface, a visceral instinct pulling me to fight against the burgeoning fear of the unknown that this moment, too, would slip through my fingers. "That I came to find you." "I didn't know this would happen," he replied, voice trembling. Dread gripped me. His return, though unexpected, felt like the twisting of a knife in an old wound. What did it mean for us now? Just then, the weight of regret threatened to swallow me whole. The past, with all its unresolved issues and whispered accusations, threatened to ensnare us in its grasp again. Rico's eyes flickered between us, 2 worlds colliding, and yet he remained my anchor in the storm. "Anya, listen to your brother," Rico said softly, despite the gale of emotion swirling around us. "I won't let you put yourself in danger for me. You have to go for your own safety. No. I am not leaving you," I declared, my voice rising painfully in pitch. The intensity of the moment hovered between us, and I prided myself on being strong, but the cracks of fear and uncertainty began to form, hinting at a deeper truth. I was terrified of losing him. Just as I resolved to push back against the hopelessness, the woman who had come to our aid tugged at my arm, urgency lining her face. "We need to get him to safety before the structure collapses entirely. Can you help us? Find something to cover him." My heart raced as I realized that every second counted. Torn between my brother's plea and the stricken gaze of Rico, I felt my will teeter on the edge. The sounds of rescue began merging into a rally of voices nearby, and I could feel the pressure. Time was slipping away. I had to choose. "Anya, I'm here." My brother's voice grounded me for a second, but the weight of Rico's stare pinned me to the concrete. It felt like choosing life or death, light or darkness, connection or solitude. Before I could think further, a loud crack echoed above us as another piece of debris trembled overhead. Instinct kicked in, and I dove towards Rico, shielding him, as my brother threw himself to cover us both. A striking reminder that love could emerge even from the unlikeliest of places, even after a decade of distance. The crashing sound reverberated through the air, a heart-stopping dissonance, as the mighty structure continued to fail us. Rescue couldn't be reached in time, and guilt clawed at my insides. As the ground trembled beneath us, I realized my brother and I needed to work together, not to save just ourselves or Rico, but to reclaim the parts of us that had been lost. "Stay with me, please," I begged Rico, as I fought against the debris around us, feeling my brother's presence behind me, urging a harmony that had been absent for far too long. Suddenly, A flicker of warmth enveloped my hand, a small glimmer of hope ignited, and the woman managed to grab a deflated life raft nearby, delivering it to us with urgency burning in her eyes. This will buy us time. We need to work together to get him free. As my brother and I worked in unison, the motion of hope surged between us, and I caught a glimmer of the sibling bond we had once shared, mended by the hope of escape. Just as we tugged the raft over Rico, the weight shifted again, and I locked eyes with my brother, the moment heavy with unspoken words, but then, it happened. In the thick of the chaos and the cries of sirens, a shadow loomed over us. Another figure appeared, silhouetted against the smoke and destruction, an ominous presence I recognized all too well. There stood Lucas, my brother's childhood rival, a familiar face that brought with it the frigid fingers of betrayal and anger. I remembered all too well the way he had tormented us before, and yet here he was again, like a specter emerging from the depths of our shared past. Is this what you wanted, Anya? To watch him die? He taunted, voice slick with disdain. In that moment, the world seemed to constrict around us as his words wrapped around the frayed threads of my hope, tearing at the very fabric I sought to mend. I could feel Rico, my brother, and even the woman's presence slip further from my grasp, overshadowed by the realization that the heartache of the past had delivered me to an even darker stage. Anya, my brother murmured softly, as Rico's grip on my hand faded, you can't let him win. And in that pivotal struggle, as Lucas loomed closer, I wondered if the fire of connection we had fought so hard to secure could withstand the intrusions of a legacy that threatened to tear us apart once more. Just when I thought the shadows could swallow us whole, a single spark ignited a final plea for redemption, hanging precariously in the balance of calamity. But would it be enough? The atmosphere was thick with tension as Lucas moved closer, a menacing grin spreading across his face. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs as the world around us closed in, the remnants of the crumbling structure falling away into a throbbing backdrop of chaos. Rico's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and my brother was tense and poised for action. We were caught in a moment that demanded a choice, each person standing on the edge of peril and possibility. Why are you here, Lucas? I spat, trying to keep my voice steady, over the sounds of destruction and despair. You're not a part of this, his laugh cut through the air like shards of glass. Not a part of this? This is exactly where I belong, where I can watch you squirm while everything falls apart. He stepped forward as if testing boundaries, reveling in the power of fear he tried to instill. That I could feel the hope begin to deflate as Lucas' words roared against my thoughts. Behind him, shadows that felt all too familiar danced in the corners of my memory, igniting the insidious whispers of doubt about myself and the life I fought to maintain. A flood of memories welled up, unbidden and suffocating, no longer just faces of old friends, but the invasive echoes of bullying, judgment, belonging, and betrayal. But I couldn't let Lucas win. I glanced at my brother as he instinctively moved closer to protect Rico, and I saw the determination etched into his features. We had already fought too hard to reclaim our bond. Well, fight together, I murmured. My brother met my eyes, and even in that fractured moment, I could sense his unwavering belief in our connection. I drew strength from each flicker of light amid overwhelming darkness. If we lost that unity, then we might as well lose everything else. A deep breath steadied my spine, and I pushed back against Lucas' assertions. You don't control us. Whatever power you think you wield is built on fear. And that doesn't define who we are. Such noble intentions, Anya. But look around you. He gestured to the chaos unfolding, and for a heartbeat, I felt the world tremble. This isn't a fairy tale. You can't just wish for happy endings. In that instance, a powerful pang surged through me, coiling tightly around the hope I was trying to cultivate. The sirens wailed, rattling through the structure, and I could see the figures of rescue workers drawing nearer, caught up in a struggle of their own. Each second melted in agonizing slow motion. I glanced at Rico, who was calming his raspy breaths, his eyes focused on me with a quiet plea. Anya, he whispered, don't let him tear you apart. His words sank deep, anchoring me through swirling chaos. I had the strength he had always believed in. I just had to remember it. Determined, I planted my feet firm on the ground. You will not tear us apart, Lucas. Your words are not our reality, just as I summoned enough courage to take a step forward, a low rumble echoed above us, forcing Lucas's full attention away from me. Desperation clouded his face as he realized the structure was creaking under its own weight. In that brief diversion, a new fear ignited within me. We were on a timer, and the urgency pressed against me like a weight. Rico. We need to get you out. I shouted, rushing toward him, but Lucas sprang, lunging between us, exuding hostility, not without paying the price. His voice was dangerously calm, yet it was laced with an unpredictable edge. A surge of desperation washed over me as I witnessed his gradual descent toward instability. Just as Lucas reached for me with his tainted intentions, the world exploded into a new round of chaos. Shards of debris began to rain down, tearing apart the thin air. My instincts kicked in. No! I shouted, throwing myself toward Rico, limbs in motion as I shielded him with my body. My brother, knowing my hope was tethered to Rico's safety, moved instinctively, grabbing my arm for support. We need to get out now. He pulled at me with urgency, forcing me back to reality. Anya, in that charged moment, I faced the choice between the life that might have been and the raw truth of what remained. The crumbling structure around us was not just a physical barrier, it was a representation of everything that had bound us and held us hostage to our fears. With every ounce of resilience, I clung to my brother and moved closer to Rico, the weight of our past clashing with the pulse of family uniting us in the face of danger. Just as we began to adjust the life raft further toward Rico's body, a crack echoed louder, something deeper than just the walls. I felt a dark omen wash over me as time seemed to slip like water through my fingers. And then it happened. A loud crash erupted, the ceiling above us faltered, sending us sprawling as debris rained down. I screamed, feeling the shockwave of reality moving us apart, but instinct forced me to hold on. In the chaos, I lost sight of Rico and my brother. Everything blurred, and in an instant, all I could grasp was devastation. I screamed for them in the madness, the world spinning into a vortex of noise. Lucas' laughter punctured through the panic, cruel and mocking. You thought you could escape. This is your end. Trembling, I realized I had no control over this moment. I was powerless against the very fears I tried to confront. But then the ground shifted beneath me, and with it, the opportunity to cling to that one tiny ember of hope remained. That I clenched my eyes shut, feeling the sharp edge of despair while clamping my hands over my ears to block Lucas' taunts. I will fight for them. I whispered determinedly, embracing the fire still flickering in my heart, a connection that neither Lucas nor the chaos could extinguish. There, in that moment of impending darkness, I summoned all the strength I had as I braced for the unknown. I knew one simple, irrevocable truth: I would never stop fighting for the love and bond we had carved out in a fractured world. And just as I resolved to embrace the fight, a chilling shout erupted from the shadows. Anya! In that instant, I turned toward the sound, my heart racing with frantic anticipation. As the dust settled, I saw a figure emerge from the chaos, one I hadn't expected to see again, a haunting reminder of the layers of our intertwined fates. Could this be the key I needed to shift the balance? The revelation unfolded before me as a new storm began to brew, a potential ally or the darkest of betrayals. Only one thing was certain: everything we loved, everything we fought for was at stake once more. The dust hung in the air like a shroud, muffling the noise as I strained to see who had called my name. My heart raced, not just from the chaos around us but from anticipation and fear intertwined. The figure moved closer, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat as recognition set in. It was a friend from a distant and simpler time, someone who had faded out of my life, lost to the tides of survival. She wasn't alone. Sunshine seemed to radiate from her, illuminating the darkness that engulfed us both. But behind her, there was something darker lurking, something that twisted my stomach in knots. A shadow draped around her like a cloak, echoing the depths of pain we all carried. Anya! Mia shouted again, eyes wide with determination as she stumbled over debris in her haste to reach me. We need to get out of here now, my brother. Rico's I stammered, frozen momentarily between hope and desperation, but before I could finish, Lucas sprang forward again, unpredictably riled up, his gaze darting between Mia and me. What's this? A little reunion? How heartwarming, he sneered. MIA's expression hardened. She was not like the girl I once knew. There was a steeliness about her that I didn't recognize, a fierce energy fueled by something primal. You don't scare me, Lucas, she shot back, edging in front of me as if her mere presence could somehow protect me from his malevolence. Let her go, the words hung in the air like a lifeline, and I seized upon them, my instincts propelling me to MIA's side. The image of the girl I once knew was shattered, replaced by a fierce warrior forged in the fires of hardship. She wasn't just here to fight, she had come to reclaim what was lost. Lucas laughed again, the sound dripped with derision. You think you can change anything? This is my playground and you're all just pieces to be moved, not if we can help it, Mia replied, positioning herself resolutely at my side. In that moment, her hand pressed against mine, transferring a sense of strength as though we were merging our spirits into a single force. As the walls crumbled and the storm of despair howled through the wreckage, I felt the urge to fight ignite within me once more. The connection between Mia and me morphed from quiet nostalgia to unshakable resolve. We will take back what's ours, I declared, my voice rising as I felt Rico's presence lurking in the back of my mind, his strength elevating my own. Get out of our way, Lucas, Mia yelled, her confidence spilling over. You're not just fighting against us, you're fighting against everyone who believes in hope. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Lucas's face as his dominance began to waver. Hope? He sneered. Hope is nothing but a fool's dream. You're trapped in a collapsing structure, and something shifted behind him, drawing his attention momentarily. It was as if the building itself was responding, the vibrations cascading through our bodies, urging us to move. My brother's voice echoed in my mind. Hold on, Mia, we have to find Rico. I pleaded, tugging her arm and leading her through the labyrinth of debris toward where I last saw him. With every step, the walls of reality seemed to close in tighter, but the fear that had once gripped me started to dissipate beneath the heat of our shared purpose. That we navigated through a narrow corridor, shifting stone and dust spiraling as we made our way deeper into the wreckage. My heart pounded painfully as worry clawed at my insides. What if we were too late? What if Lucas found a way to keep us apart again? Suddenly, Mia stumbled, and I grasped her arm to steady her. The moment stretched taut, and I stared into her eyes. Beyond the chaos, beyond the pain that had once separated us, there was understanding, and with it, a spark of hope. Mia, I started, but the words escaped me, tangled in fear and disbelief. I hadn't expected to stumble upon this sense of unity again, hadn't anticipated this surge of warmth amidst the chaos. Anya, she began, but a loud crash interrupted us, as a part of the structure above us crumbled, sending a palpable wave of terror rippling through the air. Run! I shouted, adrenaline spiking as I propelled us forward, determined to reach Rico before time and fate stole him from us entirely. The hall twisted and turned, shadows flickering as we emerged into a larger area. It was filled with scattered debris and broken remnants, but beneath the chaos, my heart raced as I caught sight of a familiar figure, the silhouette of my brother, but his posture was slumped. Rico. With desperation fueling every step, I rushed toward him, but my heart dropped as I saw the blood pooling beneath him, the result of wounds that marked his struggle against despair. And in that heart-stopping moment, my heart shattered as I felt the weight of my world slipping away. The fragile thread that had connected us all was beginning to unravel. No. I screamed, dropping to my knees beside him, frantically checking for any signs of life. Rico, please come back to us. He lifted his eyes slowly, the flicker of recognition swimming within their depths, and though pain marred his features, that unbreakable bond flickered back to life. But then, the anguished timbre of something unexpected reached my Ursa's soft wheezing, barely heard over the cacophony. Rico, what happened? I gasped, struggling to suppress the rising tide of panic. Anya, he started, voice weaker than I'd ever known it. I tried, but I couldn't. My heart clenched painfully. No, don't say that. We're going to get out of here together. Suddenly, Lucas loomed behind us, a predatory glint in his eyes. Despite the chaos, he stepped forward, blocking my path, a cruel smirk dancing across his lips. You need to choose, Anya. Save yourself, or save him. Time froze as I gazed into the abyss of his threats, everything around us swirling with despair and uncertainty. But as the weight of my brother's gaze pressed against me with the flicker of warmth lingering in MIA's hand, I made my choice that I won't abandon him, I said, forcing my voice to rise above the chaos. And I will not let your perverse game end in despair. You won't win, Lucas. Not today. Did I end that charged moment? I felt the adrenaline surge through my veins, fueling my determination, as I focused on Rico and Mia. But the reality weighed heavy on my heart. The structure might fall, our time might slip away, but I would not falter. Not now. And just when it seemed like I could summon the strength to push Lucas back, an unbearable crack echoed above us, a foreboding fracture heralding the chaos that lay ahead. Would this really be the moment that stripped us of everything, or would it be the one that ignited our final fight? With the ground beginning to tremble in warning, my heart raced faster than time itself, and I realized both the fragility and fortitude of our bond. The fight for our lives and love was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and yet, an ember of hope burned in the shadows of despair, but the question remained: could love be enough when everything lay on the line? As I braced for the collapse of what I feared might be our last chances, a shocking truth loomed nearer, waiting to expose itself amidst the chaos: who exactly would rise to become the hero worth fighting for? The dust and debris around us danced as the structure continued to strain against its own weight, surrendering to gravity. I could hear the deep groans of metal and concrete screaming for freedom, a chaos that echoed the storm raging in my heart. In that moment, love and fear collided, a poignant reminder that we were fighting not just for survival, but for the very essence of who we were. Anya, it's too late for me, Rico coughed, his voice a mere whisper against the cacophony surrounding us. I cried out, urgency igniting every nerve in my body. You're alive, and that means we're getting out of here together. You and me, okay? My hands trembled as I cradled his face, seeking that flicker of resilience in his weary eyes. Behind us, Lucas thrived in the uncertainty, his smirk feeling like shards of glass digging deeper into my already frayed nerves. Such a noble sentiment, he mocked, stepping forward like a predator sensing weakness. But truthfully, it's only a matter of time. This building will swallow you whole, and there's nothing you can do to change that. I felt my resolve solidify as I turned to my brother and Mia, both watching with strained expressions that mirrored my own fear. This wasn't just about us trying to save Rico, it was about standing as a united front against the darkness looming over us, facing our past and present together. We're not going to let you win. The tremble in my voice faded as I steadied my breath. This is our chance, our moment. Lucas, you're just a ghost haunting the shadows. We're stronger than you could ever fathom. Mia nodded, her fierce determination radiating through the air. Let's break the chains that bind us. She shouted, her voice resonating power as the embers of hope sparked. Together. As if on cue, the walls around us trembled, a gust of wind blowing fiercely through the corridor where Rico lay, raising the dust like the universe itself was validating our conviction. Anya, I can't. Rico's voice crumbled as he struggled against the weight pinning him down. I felt my heart ache, every word he spoke was steeped in vulnerability. I leaned in closer, willing him to absorb the strength I wished I could physically impart. Rico, I said, feeling the warmth of hope igniting within me, your strength is here. I see it. You're a survivor, and we're all fighters. You've matched my desperation time and again. I won't let you slip away. Just then, a resounding crash echoed above us, causing the structure to snap loudly as pieces began to fall, threatening to bury us all. We're running out of time. My brother's voice shouted above the noise, pulling me from Rico's pained gaze. Help me. I pleaded, as the panic surged anew. The adrenaline coursed through my veins, igniting a sense of urgency as I motioned toward the debris holding Rico captive. The woman who had initially come to our aid, she was now with us. Her strength surged as she heaved a fallen beam away, allowing more sunlight to pierce through the heavy dust. I could see her willingness to fight, a mirror of our shared resolve. Together. I yelled, rallying everyone as we bent down, everyone united, each hand reaching for more than just survival but taking action against the horror closing in. With a combined effort, we began to lift the blocking debris, my heart pounding rhythmically against its cage as I dug my fingers into splintered wood and cracked rock. Come on. I yelled, anchoring my focus solely on getting Rico free. We need to get him out, but time was cruel, and the ground beneath us shuddered with an urgent ferocity, like it was shaking beneath the weight of our resolve, the air thick with a tangible fear that our moment might slip away. Almost there. Mia yelled, her voice cutting through the clouds of despair settling around us. With every ounce of strength, we managed to lean weight more toward the debris, gasping as we finally managed to free Rico's leg, but still, he remained trapped beneath a heavier piece. His eyes flared with determination, and I knew we weren't just racing against the clock, we were fighting for our lives, our futures entangled in a tapestry of resilience. But then, just when we thought we'd found our groove, Lucas stepped forward again. It's always going to be about sacrifice. He snarled, reveling in the chaos as if it were his to control. And I know just what to take. That I felt the sudden pressure grip my heart as he lunged, seemingly poised to strike. But in that split second, time slowed down. Echoes of our shared memories flickered like shadows around us, the good, the bad, and everything in between. As he reached for me, I could hear the stark clarity of my brother's voice amidst the frenzy. Fight. Don't let him take that away from you. In the heat of rebellion, a wave of determination coursed through me. With every drop of strength I had left, I pivoted, confronting Lucas in that defining moment. You don't own us anymore. I shouted, feeling the words course through my veins, fueled by everything I had ever lost, every ounce of courage gathered now reinvigorated by love, connection, and the undying fight to reclaim hope. Just as Lucas faltered, I felt a hand grip mine with fierce determination. Let's finish this. Mia's voice rang out, resonating that spirit of unity, echoing every single battle we ever fought. Together, we blocked him out as a single force, sweeping the fear away as hope surged to untouchable heights. No, Anya! Lucas yelled, scrambling, but it was too late. We were rising like flames through darkness. Move! My brother urged, and I felt the weight constraining Rico suddenly lift as he swung himself free from the heavy rubble, seizing the moment to rise with regained strength. The air, once thick with despair, became electrified as Rico finally stood, joining us in our fight, the embodiment of resilience molded through pain and survival. As time resumed its velocity, the world lunged forward. I could feel a catharsis bubbling over. The ceiling imploded, a waterfall of debris cascading down around us. Run! Rico yelled, pulling me toward the exit, our hands clasped tightly, a tether binding us amid the chaos. We tore from the wreckage just as it succumbed to the weight of gravity, an eruption of dust behind us that left nothing but fading echoes of despair. As we emerged into the bright air of the outside world, my heart thundered wildly, echoing the triumph pulsing through our unity. But as reality settled, we halted, panting in disbelief, standing there, alive against all odds, together. We did it, I whispered as my brother and Mia caught their breath, flushed and utterly awestruck. Not without scars, my brother replied, voice hoarse yet bright. I would wear every scar if it meant being with you, Rico added, voice soft yet steady, the warmth swirling where darkness had lingered. The connections forged amidst chaos hovered around us like a blanket, unbreakable and healing. As we exchanged warmth and assurance, I felt the boundaries of our past crumbling away, like the very structure behind us, finally freed from the darkness that had sought to consume us. And as I stood there, knotted in their embrace, something remarkable dawned on me. Life was not merely about survival, but the bonds we built through struggle, enduring together against the tides of despair. Those connections were enough. It was love against all odds, a tether that pulled us together through the darkest storms. As the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating our path forward, I looked at each of them and whispered, the words spilling from my heart, this is just the beginning. That resonated, fleshing out every hope I had ever held, transforming into something real. And in the silence that followed my words, I knew one undeniable truth, amid life's wreckage, we could build anew. In that moment, I could feel if love surging, binding us, and lifting us ever onward. Finally, as the sun peeked through the remnants of yesterday, I understood I had faced the darkness, fought for my truth, and emerged not just alive, but hopeful. And that hope would be a beacon to guide me, not just for today, but for the many tomorrows waiting to be refined by the embers of resilience love would carry me through. With that, I breathed in deeply, feeling the warmth swell, embracing the beating heart of possibility that pulsed steadfastly within me. And knowing I would cherish it forever, I vowed to keep it alive, never let it dim again.